Welcome to the final days. Today is May 29th, 2019. Today we will be viewing sky and space anomalies not mentioned by mainstream media. The purpose of this channel is to show the viewers that we are living in the very last days according to the Holy Bible, and to explain why this is very good news and cause for celebration, explained later in this video. Most of the images we will be viewing were obtained today from the Federal Aviation weather cameras in Alaska and Canada. Each image is 10 minutes apart from the next, such as the video that's playing now from the northeast-facing weather camera located in Lloydminster, Alberta in Canada. Notice anything odd about the sun? Ignore the vertical line, that's a lens flare typical on the Canadian weather cameras. If you're guessing that the size of the sun appears too small, you're right. Here are pictures showing a more accurate size of our sun rising up in the morning. Now, remember the size of the sun in these pictures that you're looking at right now, as we go through more images of an undersized sun viewed from many different Canadian weather cameras today. And this same phenomena is viewable many days, not just today. Here is today's sunrise, viewed from the north-facing camera in Swift Current, Saskatchewan in Canada. Ignore the camera smudge in the center. The sun peaks over the horizon as a tiny pink dot. Then, within just a few frames, it appears more than 100 times that size. In the Bible's book of Luke, chapter 21, verse 25, Jesus tells us that we will see signs in the sun, the moon, and the stars as we approach the last days. The east-facing camera in North Battleford, Saskatchewan, shows a similar scenario. The northeast-facing camera in Fort Chipewyan, Alberta, is very dirty, so try to ignore the debris on the lens. This footage starts out an hour before sunrise, and look at the pulsating glow in the sky. After an hour, we see a tiny pinpoint of light, so small that I had to put an arrow on the image so that you could see the sun. We see the same thing happening from the east-facing camera in Medicine Hat, Alberta. And also from the north-facing camera in Drumheller, Alberta. And again, from the north-facing camera in Edmonton City Centre, Alberta. Many cameras showed this same six-pointed shape that the sun took on once it was past the pinpoint stage of the horizon. These close-ups help to see the odd six-pointed shape of the morning sun as it was rising this morning, viewed from Edmonton City Centre. At Calgary Springbank, we see the same pinpoint sun turn into a six-pointed star as it rises above the horizon. And also in Merritt, British Columbia. From the camera in Clinton Blibler Ranch in British Columbia, the sun starts out as a pink dot, then enlarges as it rises. However, from this angle, we no longer see the six-pointed star shape. Again, we see the star shape from the northeast-facing camera at Nanaimo Harbor in British Columbia. And again, from the northeast-facing camera located in Prince George, British Columbia. From the northeast-facing camera in Key Lake, Saskatchewan, the sun appears tiny, even up high in the sky. And we see the six-pointed star shape again. Here are some arrows marking the sun's path, so it's easier to see. The tiny dot, viewed from several Canadian cameras during the time that the sun is near the horizon, is the same dot that appears black in these images from Minks Island, Alaska. For reasons explained time and time again in many previous videos, our sun is not always visible. During those times when the sun is not visible, NASA's black dot equipment takes over and gives the appearance of a sun. NASA's manufactured light is small, as evidenced by the pinpoint sun in many of these videos. NASA launched the black dot equipment away from the Earth's surface, but only a few thousand miles. NASA's manufactured light is tiny enough to completely disappear behind a thin flagpole or a tiny bird feeder post. Our real sun could never disappear behind a flagpole or bird feeder post. Yet, this small manufactured light is capable of producing an enormous glare thousands of miles in diameter. We don't know why this light sometimes flashes, such as viewed this morning from the northeast-facing camera at Blue River in British Columbia in Canada. Starting at 4 o'clock this morning, local time, the sun could be seen flashing wildly for an hour and a half, viewed from the southeast-facing camera in Prince George, British Columbia. Once again, these are signs that we are living in the very last days, and that the biblically foretold time of the 7-year Great Tribulation is very, very close. Many won't survive. Beginning at 4 a.m. local time, facing west, the Quesnel, British Columbia camera captures something setting in the west. This footage begins in the early morning today. We are looking west and the sun is behind us. This is another biblical sign of the last days. From the northeast-facing camera this morning in Twin Island, Alaska, we see the sun off to the left side of the screen. We see the reflection of something very dark pink many miles to the right. This is another reason the sunrises are very heavily covered with chemically produced clouds. This is what causes our red sunrises and sunsets each and every day. In years past, we only had red sunrises when bad weather was headed our way. Now, we have red sunrises and red sunsets every single day, without exception. The only time you won't see a red sunrise or red sunset is when the cloud cover is heavy enough to completely hide it. The east-facing camera in Port Alexander captured something rising near the sun. This rising object is cloaked in the atmospheric chemicals and barely visible, but a close look at these images does show the path of this hidden object. And then it's marked with arrows to help you see the path. If we take a close look at a different section of these images, we see an enormous celestial object under the sun, very well hidden in the atmospheric chemicals. This is the reason for all the chemtrails in this picture. Just about the only way to see this huge object is to add contrast, which was difficult to do because of the chemtrails. I had to very carefully trace around the chemtrails because they produce enough glare in the photo to make the contrast not work. But when we view a close-up with contrast, you can see there is definitely a celestial object there of incredible size. There are many celestial objects now between the sun and the earth. NASA's manufactured light conveniently passes in front of these objects while the real sun goes behind them, concealing these multiple daily eclipses, such as viewed in this older footage from Sitka, Alaska, showing a total solar eclipse with wild, colorful reflections of the concealment equipment in place to hide these daily eclipses. Untold trillions are spent to hide the incoming planetary system, which has now mingled with our solar system. It will make its closest pass to Earth during the Great Tribulation. The 24th chapter of Isaiah describes what will happen to our Earth during this close pass when he writes about the severe wobbling and the shaking to our planet. Why would someone spend trillions of dollars to hide something like this? Because the enemies of Christ do not want you to know how close to the end we are. The enemies of Christ do not want you to turn your life over to Christ while you still have time. Instructions are at the end of this video telling you how to accept Christ into your life. But all of this is actually very good news and cause for celebration, because Jesus has promised to remove his faithful followers from earth before the major destruction. This is commonly called the rapture, which will take place quickly and quietly just before the Great Tribulation begins. The New King James Version of Luke chapter 21, verse 36 reads, "Watch therefore, and pray always, that you may be counted worthy to escape all these things that will come to pass." Jesus is talking about the Great Tribulation. He is saying that those who are counted worthy will escape God's wrath. To be counted worthy, we must be living in holiness. A link in the description box below discusses what holiness is and how to achieve it. The reason that your eternal soul has been sent into this fallen world is so that you can choose to love Christ out of your own free will and live according to that love. This is the only reason we are here in these temporary flesh bodies. These next few screens will tell you how to accept Christ into your life in the event you are seeking Him. Simply pause the screen if you need more time to read the text.
Hi guys, this is Daniel Alexander Cannon here on Logic Before Authority. I wanted to do a video, and specifically, because a lot of you come to understand, just like I have, is that a lot of these events that we see going on, or at least some of them, are ritualistic in nature, and we know that they have rituals planned for the future. But I want to talk about that subject a little bit, and we're also going to look at a directly related subject that to this. Okay, you see, and I haven't explained this before, so I'm going to now, and that is that you've seen me do videos in the past, and I've talked about reflections, like the as above, so below reflection thing, okay? And you've heard me talk about images, and the Bible talks about image of the beast. Image is another word, easily could be a reflection. And I guess what I'm getting at is that to understand what these guys are doing, one of the things you need to understand is that they try and do create a reflection on the earth, in our environment, on our world. They create a reflection of what they see or believe that is going on in the heavens. You see, they create another way to put it is they create a counterfeit. Okay? They create a counterfeit of what they see going on in the heavens. A reflection, an image. Just like I told you recently that if you looked in France and you located all of the basilicas and you drew them out, line, one going to the next spot, one going to the next spot, line to line, and you drew it, you would notice fairly quickly that it is Virgo. Virgo, the constellation of Virgo, which is in our nighttime skies right now. As a matter of fact, I was out on the beach looking up at it last night along with the rise of Jupiter. If you go outside and look to the east, maybe an hour after dark, you'll start seeing this really bright star coming up, and it's Jupiter. And I mention that because Jupiter was the so-called planet that was in Virgo's womb back on September 21st of 2017. Remember, Jupiter went in the womb of Virgo, the constellation of Virgo in the belly area, and stayed in there, went retrograde, backed up, and then moved forward and went out between the legs of Virgo, exactly the amount of time it takes to birth a child. And we know that, at least I feel confident enough to think that that sign, the woman clothed in the sun with the moon at her feet, with 12 stars upon her head, and the whole story about the dragon being cast down and him going after the woman and releasing water from his mouth, which, as you also know, the serpent has his tail in his mouth. Okay, so in this respect, there is no difference between the mouth or the tail, or even you might go so far as to call it the anus of the dragon. It's I-pet goat. If you've seen my videos on that, shows that is what they believe. And so the dragon is going to have water come from its mouth after the woman, right? In which I think is tied to some of the events that we kind of see lining up and so on. But it isn't just that thing that they're going to mirror, that they're going to counterfeit, that they're going to make a reflection of it taking place on the ground. It isn't just that, it's many, many, many things that they're mirroring and reflecting into our world. And they are physically making these events happen because these are the things that they see going on in the heavens, and they want to counterfeit God's work. It's part of Satan's plan, you might say. Okay? So in a roundabout way, I wanted to kind of explain to you part of what's in my head when I'm looking at the things that I'm looking at and what I'm going to show you right now. Okay? What we're going to do is we're just going to look at a couple of images here, and I've got a number of things worked in here for us to look at, but we're also going to look at the numerical resonance, okay? Because just as they reflect and produce images on the ground and in our environments and events that are a counterfeit reflection image of what's going on in the heavens, they also do it in our languages and in everything. So let's start here by looking at this map that we've been staring at now for a few minutes. And this is the county map for Butte County, California. Most of you know where this is at and why I'm interested in it. Now, if you look at this county map, you have to realize a couple of things before you start thinking a few other things. You have to realize that what I just told you, the imaging of the heavens and the imaging of things and creating images on the ground, this isn't a new thing. They've been doing this for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And I would say it has to be thousands, because we can look at the pyramids in Giza and know that they are an image, a reflection, a counterfeit of Orion's belt, right? Right. So when we look at this county, and we know that this is an important county for these guys because of the events that have been going on here. You know, because Paradise, California is here, and we have several reservoirs in this image that are maxed out, and what looks to be visible problems, as well as what we know is that the names and the dimensions and everything that they've chosen related to the Oroville Dam is a reflection of something coming that they see that's going to happen in the sky. They believe that there is going to be at some point a water break, okay, or a flood coming from the dragon's mouth or its butt, okay, because one and the other is the same, because the dragon has his tail in his mouth. Now, when I look at this image, I see a profile picture, like if you were looking at somebody's profile from the left side. That's one thing I see. I also see something that, well, let's talk about the profile picture, I guess, first. And that is, you can see a neck coming up, a chin, lips, a nose, a brow, a forehead, and what looks like some kind of potentially a hairdo or a little horn. And then the back of the hair coming down, and I would say this looks either American Indian or Egyptian, which actually are pretty much the same thing if you know where the original Indians come from. But that's not a topic for disagreement at this point, because we're talking about something else. So they've created this county. As with most counties, it's in a shape that they chose, because we didn't choose it. The roads, where they go, the road numbers. I mean, if you look at the roads that are here, if I recall correctly, one of the roads that are right here in front of us is Highway 90, and I believe there's a Highway 11, and I believe there was maybe a 70 or something like that. All the road numbers are picked as well. And the names of the cities, just like Paradise was picked because it is related to the placenta. The placenta is paradise. Is considered to be paradise, and the word paradise was chosen after that word, or created after that word. And Oroville has to do with basically a village of gold, right? Or gold ore. And all the other names were all picked specifically too. If you go through, like, here's Butt Valley Reservoir. Looks like the end of a large colon. And then you got Lake Almanor, which they said was named after 3 women, they claim. And it looks like a bladder or 2 bladders even, or something, you know. And I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm saying, I'm just making comment when it comes to that, I guess you'd say. Okay. These are some of the other places around the general area, like the Crossing and Belfast and Pyramid Lake and Tool Peak. The word tool, that is it comes from a occult word. So now let's look at some other things, and I'm going to try to move through this fairly quickly, but I want to point out some specific things as I go along. So let's look at Butte, okay? And let's look at, for y'all new guys, we're looking at the mathematical equivalents. These are words that resonate with other words or phrases, okay? And our language was created using a mathematical system, and it was created to work this way, the way I am showing you. I'm not an expert at it yet at this point, but I am by a long, far way understanding how this works and why it works this way than most. So you can see the numbers are 4 and 8, or 408, or 68 in the simple gematria, or 407. Okay. And Barack Obama is an exact match. Now, why is that? Why do you think that it just happens to be that coincidence? Well, Barack Obama, in the Bible, translated into Hebrew, Barack Obama is, I saw Satan fall like lightning. I saw Satan fall like lightning is the translation for Barack Obama. So there's a evil, satanic resonance going on here between the word Butte or butt and that. It ain't by coincidence. You know how many words there are in the English language? Over 600,000. Over 600,000. Now here's Helios. This is another match. See, these guys are worshipers of the creation instead of the creator. So Helios for them is like the sun or the sun god. Marduk, another word for the Satan type character out of the Bible. Amun-Ra, which again is the sun god, matches again. So Amun-Ra and Helios match each other, right? Jericho is a city that's been destroyed over and over and over and over in Israel. And it sits right at the edge of a large lake / reservoir. And the Me Too movement jumped in because, Me Too is about, well, you know what it's about. Persia, which is the country in general, the area of the exact subject of what we're talking about. The ritual worship of the creation instead of the creator. And it matches the Big Apple. Pixar. Nephilim. Now the Nephilim were the sons and daughters of the angels and the women. Nephilim. See, it says there that it's spelled both ways. If you want to stop and read it, instead of saying, that's not how you spell it. Yeah, that's actually the original spelling. Nephilim. And notice it's Jewish match number 119. Mahdi. Mahdi is the supposed savior that's coming for Islam. The Jews have their own savior that is supposedly coming as well. Mar-a-Lago, so it matches the president's location where he spends a lot of his time in Florida, right? Happens to match Hellfire, which is one of the events that they're showing us that is coming. Fire from the sky, Hellfire. Matches Shasta, which is one of the mountains nearby. The Eye, Snakehead, the Eon, which is one of the subjects that we're talking about, the reset of time that they're chattering about. Genital. Imagine it matching that too. Genital. Because we're talking about, you know, that general area. And the female and male genitalia is all about this subject, because it seems like almost everything to them is related to sex. It's related to backwards sex. Omega code. Then Butte County, if we look at it, Butte County by itself, or the two words together rather, you see what the immediate match is? September what? Then it matches that too. And that, of course, matches that. Is that surprising that that matches that? It's because it's supposed to. They wrote the code that way. Is it a surprise that it matches that? Or that? Is it surprising that that matches that and that, but it also matches this? Well, how about that? 600,000 words in the English language. And when you go to 2 words or 3 words, the mathematics get insane as to the possibility of these things resonating and matching with each other, unless they're supposed to. Well, look at there. We have Barry Soetoro matching Butte County, and we have Barack Obama matching Butte. And why do you think that is? And why do you think Obama came up there when he went to there's a national park up in this area of California, and it's slipping my mind at the moment. It might come to me in a minute, but he went to this park, and the gematria for that park is 666. And while he went to this park, he supposedly did some other traveling around down in this area. Well, I'm sure that one's just a coincidence, right? That one too, I'm sure. And that one. Now this one's an interesting one. October 4th. Why? Because that's 10-4. No, not 10-4, good buddy, but 10-4 as in a time on a clock. And where have we seen 10-4 on a clock? All over everywhere. I've got videos on my channel showing how all the Timex watches that are sold, all the Rolex watches that are sold, everything that's marketed when it comes to a clock, the clock is on either 10-4 or 10-10, or 10-9. We're going to come back to that October 4 here in a second. It also mentions Little Horn. The Little Horn, Butte County, has a border boundary of the county that looks like a man's face with a horn on top of his head, a little horn on top of his head. Well, that's coincidence too, right? And what is a little horn? Well, it's called a thrump or a trump. That's what a little horn is defined as. A trump. Know where you can find information about the little horn? In Daniel, start out at Daniel 7:8, or jump over to Daniel 8:8. You'll find it. Paradise. Sacrifice. Orville Lake. Queen Elizabeth. Great Red Dragon. Orville Lake. And the Great Red Dragon is in the sky coming down, chasing the woman. Just imagining this, putting it into a context for you. And he's going to spew water after the woman. Where's he going to get the water? From Orville Lake. Because that is what matches Great Red Dragon. Can you see it? Can you dig it? Can you get out of the way of it, possibly? Matches Church of Satan. Washington, D.C. Great Pyramid, like Pyramid Lake. Eye of Horus. So we got Ra, Eye of Horus, all these things. Beginning the end. There's a little truth for you. Now coming back to this 10-4 thing, Casey over at Enter the Stars noticed a few things about the dates, and that 10-4 was an exact amount of elapsed time on the winter solstice in Israel. 10 hours, 4 minutes of elapsed time on the winter solstice of this year. 10-4. And he also noticed that 10-4 as a date has 88 days left in the calendar, and brings you back down to the fall equinox. And the mirror of that, the spring equinox, both having 88 days between the end and the beginning of the year. Because this 88 and this 10-4 and this code they use is all over everything. You can stop that and check the rest of it out, but that was what I wanted to show you. That was Casey over at Enter the Stars. October 4th. So let's look at the 10-4, October 4th. Let's look at it directly. October 4th. Well, it has the name of the Pope. Matches his name. What do you reckon that chance was? Matches Ark of the Covenant. I'm sure that's coincidence. Cube of Saturn. Yeah, that's coincidence. Notice how Cube of Saturn in Jewish has a 777 code. And Order Out of Thelma, which is also a match, has a 444 code. And Vladimirovich, which is Putin's middle name, matches his too. Matches California Fires. Paradise matches California Fires. Right? Ain't that the word we're on? Oh, excuse me. We're on October 4th. Matches California Fires. Well, last year, the fires happened on November 4th, not October 4th. Well, not the fires, but the Paradise Fire. Blue Star Kachina. The biggest, bluest looking star I can see in the sky right now is Jupiter. If you go outside tonight, if it's clear, and you look to the east, by the time you watch this video, you go outside and look, you're going to see Jupiter. It's big, blue, and bright. The Mayan calendar. You see, the Mayan calendar, I think actually very possibly that it could have been an accurate calendar. Also matches 777. And here's a novel by a guy named Ben Lerner. Had a novel called 1004. And it was all about time and everything we've been talking about. You see the lightning bolt in his depiction. He used this pyramid, and he had two dinosaurs on either side for his book, and an eye in the center of the clock, the control point, number 13. But this is the same basic clock as the one on the clock tower, and his clock is 1004 as well. Same as this one. Once the lightning struck, it was on 1004. The clock tower froze, of course, at 1004. Here's an episode of The Simpsons, and they showed a very similar scene. It's a courthouse in Springfield. And the clock was also on 1004 in the scene. And it also had two pillars with two beasts. And if you notice, you have 8 windows on both sides. 8 on one side, 8 on the other side. 88. This was another episode depicting the same thing, but you could see the windows a little better and the clock. From what I can tell, looks like to be either on the same time or at 10:09 this time instead. Here it is depicted again. With what looks like 10:04 again. That's a closer up shot of it. See, this was the date on the newspaper shown in the video, November 14th, 1955. Now we're going to stay on the same subject, but we're going to be looking at it a little bit different. We're going to look at this word in gematria, right? Now look at instead of looking at the total, which is 234 and 39, look at the numbers that make up like A equals 1 at the bottom. See, A equals 1, S equals 19. And of course, we know what those three numbers together are, and it just happens to match this word. And if you go up above, and you got 6 and 114 and 114, well, if you add those together, you've got 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, 6, and another 6. You see how the dragon's tail fits in his mouth yet? Or a little bit better picture anyways. Now let's look at as by itself, right? 1 and then 1, 9 and then 6 and then 6 again basically. And then at the top, on Jewish this time, it says 1, 9 as well, right? So when you talk about the dragon's tail being in his mouth, you're also kind of saying as above, so below. And we've been talking about that through this video. So here we have as. Now let's look at so. So is very similar. You see the numbers that are associated with it? A lot of the same numbers, right? Just some of them are flipped reflection, an image, a counterfeit of the number, the opposite, up and down, or as above, so below. See, over here, it's as above. Over here, it's as below, so some of the numbers are flipped over upside down, but it's the same numbers. And then you've got but. And look at your numbers. You've got a 12, 12 and a 12. And you got a 6, 7, 8, 9. You got a 9. You got a 3, a 3, a 3. If you add it up, you could have 2 9s. Or you could have, well, a lot of different ways to look at it, I guess. And then we'll look at this word, which is a 33 at the top, a 33 in the middle, and a 55 at the bottom. You reckon we've been driving 55 miles an hour all this time for some reason? I think so. So this, the tail of the dragon that's in whose mouth? Well, this guy's. Right? And then I thought I would just throw the number 1004 in the calculator and see what it brought back. And this is what it brought back. You know, this is all the way to the top of the pyramid. So the 1004, which is on the clocks, has a resonance in gematria of that. And that. And that. So you see how it resonates in multiple reflections? It's like you're in a room of mirrors, a room of reflections, a room of images of the beast. I took a shot of this because I wanted you to notice that the spillway is 901. Drop the null number, which is the 0, and you got 91, which has been all over the gematria we've just been looking at. And the flood control capacity curve is 880 feet tall. So the spillway is at 901, and the bottom of the flood control outlet capacity curve is 88, which is the bottom of this thing. You got 901 at the top and 880 at the bottom. So 91 and 88. All the same numbers we've been looking at back here. Do you see what I'm showing you? Multiple counterfeits, multiple image of the beast's game. What's going on? And see there, I didn't make it up. 600,000 words in the English language. You can look this up. It's an old water temple, which is the control point of all of the area in the San Francisco area. It's one of the two main control points of all the water that runs underground in a river or water flow, that watershed under the ground, a canyon that they have dubbed to be the Nile. Yeah, you have the Nile running under y'all guys. Did you know that? And I found it very interesting that this matched, and even this thing, this words match 1948. 1948 is a very key number. And look at the top for 1948, what it matches, 1009. I think something happened in 1948 that we were never told about. This is some of the collection areas. It's like a big lake underground, and the piping system in which they supply water to San Francisco. This is some of the information where it talks about the Nile. And there's 3 subterranean rivers that run to the water temple. And it produces 6 million gallons a day. Can you imagine how much water 6 million gallons a day is? What would happen if you figured out a way to control that so water came out of the ground? Maybe you put in a gate where you could stop it so it would force it to come out of the ground. Can you imagine some of the crazy damage you could do? Make people think that it was a flooding for real. And Yosemite was the name of the park I was trying to tell you that Obama went to. Yosemite is 666. Guys, I think I'm going to stop there because I'm about wore out. And I'm doing this on my cell, so my arm is about to fall off. Last thing I'll say is, guys, YouTube is doing all your creators in. They're doing us all in. They're destroying. Put it this way, the only people that are going to get to see this video is if you're subscribed or if one of my subscribers share it directly with someone, because our videos do not get rotation at all anymore. None, period, zero. You either see it when it comes out or somebody hands it to you or it don't happen. So with that in mind, if you can, it's past the time to worry about what other people think. Worry about what they're not thinking, what they don't know about. Just share it, put it in their face. Don't worry about it. It'll go as a good mark on your God calendar. Have a great day, guys. I love you. This has been Daniel Alexander Cannon here on Logic Before Authority.